It gives me great pleasure to introduce our second speaker, and that is Dr. Ute Kropf from the University of Applied Sciences in Kiel. Dr. Kropf has over 40 years experience working and researching in oilseed rape and spends most of her time now giving lectures on yield physiology of arable crops, including oilseed rape, and has responsibility for the university's trial station. She's been working with the university since 2000. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar, and we thank you for the time. Dr. Kropf, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chris, for the introduction. Yeah, I want to talk about and to show some data about our experience with oilseed rape during the last years. I can't control the screen actually. Oh, yeah. Now. Okay. Okay, this is the location of our trial station. It's 30 kilometers west of Kiel in the maritime climate in northern Germany, Schleswig-Holstein. And it's compared to your site here, Cambridge, north of Cambridge. It's about 200 kilometers far north. So our day length in autumn is even shorter than at your sites. Our climate is quite wet. We've got, can you see, pointer options, laser pointer. Yeah. We've got 150 millimeters of rainfall and around about 10 centigrade degrees over 5 years. And yeah, not a very poor site. It's sandy loamy sand, so it's good for even 5 to 6 tons of oilseed rape. This is our trial where we compare plowing and not plowing, mulch drilled oilseed rape since 2008. So until here, the harvest of 2014, we had a very high yield level between 5 and 6 tons. And after the harvest of 2014, the yield went down between 40. We were a bit lucky during the last 2 years. We had nearly around about 50 decitons, 5 tons of oilseed rape. Because we had no late frost in the spring, so we were lucky to keep all the flower buds here. But here we lost a lot of flower buds, and just here to talk about the neonic dressing. Our last neonic harvest was in 2013, so we had no neonics in 2014, and we had still 6 tons of oilseed rape. At our site, a normal sowing date is about the last week in August. Late sowing is first and the second week in September. And here all these plots are sown usually in the last week of August. So what is the difference between this period with high yields and this period of lower yields? And in our opinions or our experience is that one of the main reasons for that is the difference in the winter vegetation. Until 2014, we had really, not cold winter, but we had at least 2 or 3 months without vegetation. We had down to minus 15 centigrade degrees. And with the first growing season, 14-15, then this period, we really have only 4, maybe 5 weeks last winter, just no stop of the vegetation. So the plants are growing actually the whole autumn, very long, the whole winter, and they start very early in January or February to regrow again. From these plots, I made a yield component analysis. So when you divide the yield, for example, here, 5 tons per hectare, that's this line. When you divide it by the 1,000 grain weight, then you will get the kernels, or the seeds per square meter you are harvesting. So 5 tons can be 100,000 kernels with 5 grams 1,000 grain weight, or 120 with 4.2 grams. So here we can see how we gain more yield per hectare. So more yield per hectare is only generated by more harvested flower buds, more side shoots, and more seeds per bud. So the secret of higher yields is to get more seeds per square meter from the plants. Now, to understand what's going on in our oilseed rape, we need to know how to about the developmental rhythm of the oilseed rape. Now, the development of the oilseed rape plant is according to the terminal time, to the accumulated temperature. So we know that for each pair of leaves, we need 150 centigrade degrees. We need 150 centigrade for the emergence. So here before the 2-leaf stage, we have 150, then another 150 to the first 2 leaves, that's 300, plus another 150 to the 4-leaf stage. So in the 4-leaf stage, usually a plant is 450 centigrade degrees old. In the 6-leaf stage, the plant has consumed 600 centigrade degrees usually. And then another process beside the producing of just leaves and leaves and leaves is going on here on the apex. And in the 6-leaf stage, there is a transformation going on from this vegetative apex to the generative apex. So in the 6-leaf stage, the plant starts to differentiate side shoots, not only leaves until now, it starts to produce side shoots and buds here, the flower buds on the main shoot in the center. So it starts to produce our 100, 120, 150, actually up to 180,000, 200,000 seeds per square meter. And this procedure is going on until the beginning of stem elongation. That's usually after the 12-leaf stage with 1100 to 1200 centigrade degrees. And this is the stage, the developmental stage, where the plant has reached its maximum bud density. So after this point, the plant starts to reduce side tillers, weak side tillers, flower buds, to get enough food for the stem elongation and for the growth in spring. So when we compare these two situations, oilseed rape with the winter period, we start here in October with a 6-leaf stage. We start with the bud and the root differentiation until the 12-leaf stage, and usually we go into the winter time with a optimum 10 leaves. So when the plant starts to regrow in March, when the vegetation is beginning, we are reaching the 12-leaf stage and the stem elongation starts, and then the reduction of side shoots and buds is progressing. So until the 6th leaf stage, we have 600 centigrades, and in the early springtime, you reach 1200 centigrades and the stem elongation. Now, what is different in years without a really winter period when the plants are just growing and growing and growing? Then we start here with 600 in the 6th leaf stage, but we end usually during the winter time. This year, round about now, we have 1200 centigrade accumulated temperature, and our plants have at least 10 leaves, and they already started before the end of the year with a stem elongation. So actually we are now in the situation that the maximum bud density is already there, and depending on the next weeks and months, they're just starting with the reduction of buds and side shoots, even in January. So the period here is very different from that what oilseed rape needs to gain high yields. So we have a very short differentiation period and a very long reduction period. So we summarize that we need 150 centigrade degrees for each pair of leaves. Depending a bit on the day length and the light intensity. In the south of Germany, they only need, maybe 120 centigrade degrees. So it's a bit different from the northern latitude and the light intensity of the site. Usually we need 1000 to 1200 centigrade degrees until stem elongation. But our experience during the last years is that stem elongation starts earlier, maybe 900 centigrade degrees. We even have seen plants starting to elongate between the 8th and the 10 leaf stage. So there's a change going on where we need to ask our breeders what's different in the varieties, maybe the resistance level. So they need to explain us why the plants are elongating earlier than the older varieties. Our experience is that the minimum development in the autumn until the stop of the vegetation is between 8 and 10 leaves. 10 leaves is the optimum. So our normal sowing date is was about the last week in August. Then we had 1000 centigrades until the end of the year. So this was quite good. And we even can establish plants sown on the 10th of September. Then we have 800 centigrade degrees, but the disadvantage is then when we are late sowing, we have less light intensity, so the quality of the light is not so good. But it's better to have a smaller plant, a smaller later sown plant than too early and an elongated plant which is not very resistant to frost. Here you can see, according to the data, 2008 to this harvest, the accumulated temperature. The yellow part here is the accumulated temperature from the 1st of September until the end of the year. And the red part here is from January to February and March. So you can see that we have here since 2014 a very big change. The autumn and the winter is really warm. And when you add the early spring, sometimes the elongation of the oilseed rape starts very slowly in January and February. So we must add or calculate this early development in addition to the development in the autumn. So yeah, and here I can show you the real data. This is the databases for the graphics I showed you, and here is the comparison to your side. I calculated the temperature for Cambridge from September to December, and you have here in during the last 2 years, harvest 22 and 23, you had 200 centigrade more thermal time than at our side with 1056. And in autumn, you have during the first 3 months around about 200 centigrades more than at our side. We have 360, so that's more than 40% plus. So during the same time, it's much warmer at your side than at our side. So when we calculate the 1000 centigrade accumulated temperature line and our trial station, it's around about the 5th of September, and at your side it would be nearly 2 weeks later. So late sowing would be in the 3rd week of September compared to our side. Yeah, here you can see the actual situation in England at this trial station. This was late sowing oilseed rape on the 5th of September. It's now in the 8 leaf stage, and it has already 2030 degree days, and probably the apex here is already emerging. So if we would have a very hard winter without snow, it could be very harmful to these plants. Yeah, it's for me it would be very interesting to find out why the plant is, compared to the accumulated temperature, underdeveloped. Even the roots are very small, very short. So here the biomass in the leaves and the stems here is really big. Usually we're using plant regulators to control the leaf size and the height of the plant, and to make the development of the plant slower, so that we can get more leaves during these 1000, probably 1100, 1200 centigrade degrees until the end of the year. This is the late sowing trial, September 21. It's now in the 4th to 6th leaves, 740 centigrades. Accumulated temperature, looks a bit bad developed. I don't know, usually it should be 4 to 6 leaf. It should be already in the 6 to 8 leaf stage. I don't know whether it's this development is so far but so slow at the same time. So what we can say is that the plant growth follows the thermal time. And the main point is that we have no dormancy over winter. There's no stop for the plant growth over winter. Usually over the winter time, when the winter is hard, the plant is not growing, but it's still differentiating cells on the apex. So usually oilseed rape is a plant which makes it yields over the winter time without any vegetative growth. So and the result is that now the bud differentiation ends very early, and that the stem elongation and the reduction phase is even earlier, and it's coming into poorer weather conditions because of the late frosts in spring. So in addition to that, we are losing more buds because of late frost injuries. So we must discuss or think about how can we adapt our production technique, sowing date, the soil situation, plant growth regulator regime on this changed growth conditions. And we must discuss about the genetics of our varieties. Do we need different varieties under these conditions? Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kropf, for that very thought-provoking presentation. I think for me, it's really interesting to sort of go back to some real basics in terms of crop physiology and, you know, what is required to get a crop to where. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our second speaker, and that is